What's up, Steeler Nation? Before we dive into today's huge quarterback update, do me a quick favor. Smash that like button to support the channel and make sure you subscribe if you live and breathe black and gold like we do. Look, this team is in a serious mode of transformation. Every move, every decision is about perfecting this roster and making a real push for greatness. The goal? Bring another Lombardi back to Pittsburgh where it belongs. And today we have some major quarterback news you're going to want to hear. Let's jump straight into it. Now, everybody knew coming into the 2025 NFL Draft that the Steelers had a pretty wild quarterback situation. Russell Wilson? Gone. Justin Fields? Gone. Mason Rudolph? Still hanging around, but not exactly the future. And then there was Aaron Rodgers. Ever since free agency opened, Pittsburgh has been heavily connected to Rodgers. Talks between Rodgers and the team have been ongoing. He even made a visit to Pittsburgh, and insiders, including owner Art Rooney II himself, have been public about it. Rooney said on Friday that Rodgers wants to play for the Steelers next season. Let that sink in. The four-time MVP, one of the most talented QBs in NFL history, wants to put on the black and gold. But Rodgers hasn't officially signed yet, which made the draft even more interesting. When the Steelers were on the clock early in the draft, they had a golden opportunity. Sitting right there were quarterbacks Shadir Sanders, Jackson Dart, and Jalen Milroe. Guys with real upside, franchise QB potential. And what did Pittsburgh do? They passed. They instead focused on the trenches, drafting dominant defensive tackle Derek Harmon and run stopper Yahya Black, plus an intriguing outside linebacker in Jack Sawyer. Now, when Mike Tomlin sat down with Rich Eisen during the draft broadcast, Eisen asked him point blank, "Did passing on these quarterbacks mean Rodgers was coming?" Tomlin smiled and said, "Rich, I'll give you the latitude to run with it because I know you will anyway." He went on to say the team feels really good about their plan at quarterback. Translation, folks? They are extremely confident Rodgers is about to be a Steeler. Look, normally when teams don't have their quarterback situation locked down, they panic. You see teams reaching up the board, making desperate trades, grabbing players just because they have to fill a hole, not Pittsburgh. At 3, Steelers stayed calm. They played the board smart. They focused on building up the defense and didn't let the moment get too big for them. That tells you everything you need to know about how much confidence they have in the Rodgers situation working out. Tomlin wouldn't come out and say it. Directly, he was careful with his words, but the optimism was clear. He said, "Just rest assured that we've had really productive talks with him, and personally I've enjoyed having really productive talks with him and getting to know him. You can feel it. The deal feels inevitable. But, and here's where it gets even more interesting, the Steelers did finally take a quarterback later in the draft. With the 185th overall pick, they selected Will Howard out of Ohio State. Now some quick background on Howard. He started his college career at Kansas State, where he made 28 starts. Then, for his final season, he transferred to Ohio State and dominated. Over 4,000 passing yards, 35 touchdowns to just 10 interceptions, 73% completion rate. Named Offensive MVP of the national championship game? That's big time. That's not just a fluke season. That's a guy who showed up and balled out against the best competition in college football. Howard brings size, arm strength, and leadership qualities you love to see. But here's the thing. He's a developmental pick. The Steelers are not expecting Will Howard to step in and start day one. Art Rooney said it best. Rookies brought in at QB are not expected to play right away. Howard will be competing for a backup spot behind Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson, unless, of course, Rodgers arrives. So here's the big picture. Pittsburgh is still all in on Aaron Rodgers for 2025. They passed on top quarterback prospects because they believe Rodgers will be here. They added Will Howard as a smart developmental pick for the future, not a guy expected to save the franchise right away. The team reinforced the defense and the trenches. setting themselves up to be a physical dominant team whether Rodgers signs tomorrow or next month. This is exactly how you build a sustainable, winning football team. You don't overreact. You stay calm. You build the foundation. If Rodgers signs, Pittsburgh immediately becomes one of the most dangerous teams in the AFC. And if he doesn't? Well, you have Will Howard starting to learn the system for the future. It's a smart strategy. So, with the 83rd overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers selected Caleb Johnson, the standout running back from Iowa. This move was expected by some. After all, the team needed to address the backfield after Najee Harris left in free agency. But it's how they addressed it that has a lot of fans buzzing right now. Johnson is no ordinary pick. He's coming off a monster season at Iowa, over 1,500 rushing yards. 21 rushing touchdowns, averaged 6.4 yards per carry, 20 carries per game workload. This dude is a workhorse, and an explosive one at that, something this offense desperately needed. Look, we all loved Najee Harris for his durability. He was the definition of tough. 4 straight seasons with at least 250 carries. You could always count on Najee to show up, but here's the problem. 0 runs of 40-plus yards over 4 seasons. A lack of home run ability in an NFL that's all about big plays now. It's tough, because Harris gave his all, but in the end, the Steelers needed more explosiveness. Enter Caleb Johnson. This guy isn't just a grinder between the tackles. He's a threat to break one every time he touches the ball. You pair that back with Jaylen Warren, who's already been flashing that big play ability. You might just have something special brewing in Pittsburgh. And speaking of big plays, let's talk about the man behind this vision. New offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. On Friday night after the pick, Smith laid it all out. He said, generally, you've got 500-plus carries in a regular season, right? You're talking about 1,100 snaps, so you've got 500 carries to divvy up. Losing Najee, that's a lot of missing carries. We need to get more explosive, and Caleb's going to help us do that. Translation? This is about a complete overhaul of how the Steelers attack on offense. Smith didn't stop there. He also talked about the addition of DK Metcalf, who, paired with George Pickens, gives Pittsburgh one of the most physically dominant wide receiver duos in the NFL. This offense isn't just trying to move the chains anymore. It's trying to strike fear into opposing defenses. For years now, the Steelers have struggled offensively. You guys know the story. Struggles moving the ball, lack of chunk plays offense, stuck in second gear. And sure, there were a lot of reasons. For that, quarterback instability, unimaginative play calling, O-line struggles, but the bottom line was always the same. The offense just wasn't scary. Arthur Smith is making it very clear. That's about to change. With Caleb Johnson in the backfield, Jaylen Warren already established, DK Metcalf and George Pickens on the outside, and hopefully a big upgrade at quarterback soon, the Steelers are gearing up to be dangerous. The plan isn't just to win ugly anymore. The plan is to light up the scoreboard. Now some fans were wondering, why didn't Pittsburgh draft another quarterback at 83, or maybe another receiver or cornerback? Here's the thing. The Steelers believe that the pieces they've already added, including Will Howard at QB later in the draft, and the guys already in the building are enough for now. Caleb Johnson fills a bigger immediate need, explosiveness in the backfield, a true complement to Jaylen Warren, someone who can handle 15-20 touches a game without breaking down. Plus, the expectations are different when you take a running back on day 2, not in the first round. Johnson won't have the massive pressure Najee Harris carried. He can grow into his role and potentially be a star doing it. All right, Steeler Nation, now it's your turn. I want to hear from you down in the comments. Do you like how the Steelers handled the draft and the quarterback situation? Are you excited about Will Howard's potential in Pittsburgh? And most importantly, do you believe Aaron Rodgers will be wearing black and gold next season? Drop your thoughts below. I'm going to be reading and responding to as many as I can. And before you head out, make sure you like this video if you love hearing real Steelers news with no fluff, and subscribe to the channel for more daily updates, rumors, and analysis. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I'll catch you guys on the next one.